whichever side of the political spectrum you're on, everybody needs to be right. And it doesn't matter if you're actually right, it matters if you say you're right. And you cling to it, sometimes violently, instead of actually communicating. And so, given those two things, how can you really fall in love with another person? Like, if you're always afraid and you have to be right, it doesn't leave room for the kind of compromise that happens when you're in a relationship and you're in love, or what love really is. And then I read this crazy little philosophical treatise that made me want to die. That was about, it's called The Agony of Eros, and it's about how, so I have these thoughts in my head, and then I find this thing in the bookstore, and I'm like, I'm going to read this. And it was it was this philosopher, the Korean German philosopher that's referenced when she's breaking into the house, that basically was positing that love can only exist when you kind of empty yourself out, and then the other person empties themselves out, and they're like, it's reciprocal. So then together you make something, and that's true love. And he was positing that in the modern world, where everything is so me, I, centered on like social media, here's my life, here's what I look like, everything's so controlled, that you could never actually do that with another person anymore. So the supposition is that love is is us mimicking what we think we're supposed to do when we're in love, because we grow up hearing stories about it and watching movies. And so I don't agree with it, but it did kind of put it all together for me in a way that I was like, okay. And then I decided to do a story about two women having this experience, because even though I can't speak from a place of experience, men don't have the same fear that's involved in getting close to someone else that women do. And because I knew what I needed to happen in the play, there you go. And I sat down and I wrote it. And this is my third planet play. Yeah, so there you go. The other ones are Pluto and Mercury.
And Mercury was in 2016, I think. New York Festival is a reading, so for some of you old timers, you probably saw it.
Old timers, 2016.
You know, old timers. Some of the old timers from the old times.
Anyway, so there's a whole bunch of just stuff in addition to the wonderful job that they just did presenting the play. By the way, a total of 6 hours of work. I mean, it's crazy, but it was. You guys did so great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Any? Yes.
Birds. I mean, everything that throughout the writing, like birds, different birds.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're very there.
Lots of birds and rabbits. I don't know why. I mean, I wish I could tell you that it was like a conscious. I wish that people have asked me before. I don't know why. But birds and rabbits, and in Mercury, a bear.
Yeah.
There's a dead bear that gets gutted on stage and people climb out of it. So you have that to look forward to if they ever go. Probably not.
Yes.
Very different than this, but well, I guess not that.
Okay, I do have a question, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
The woman with the red.
Yeah.
At first I thought it was a real person. I mean, just, well, with Beth. I mean, the first story about the encounter.
The one in Bark, yeah.
And, but, no, because there are some crazy people out there. So anyway, I thought, okay, that's possible, it's a real person. But, I don't believe it now, but where does she come from?
So I in this particular, God, I can't believe I'm going to use this word, cycle of plays, which means I have to write more plays. But cycle of plays. There are people who represent sort of larger emotional experiences. So, for instance, in Pluto, that's a play about a mother realizing that her son, who she's trying to come to terms with, has shot a bunch of people on his college campus, and it's sort of presented in contrast with like we sort of said, the ash and light in Venus. It's sort of like an astronomical phenomenon that some people see it, some people don't. Where does this come from? And that works perfectly for this. With Pluto, it was then in 2006, after my entire life of Pluto being a planet, the scientists were like, it's not. And so in the play, the son is studying astronomy, and he like corrects the mom because she does that. My very educated mother just sort of does an pies thing. They remember all the names of the planets that they taught us when we were little. And now there's like 7 million planets, so that would have to be a very long sentence. But he's like, oh no, Pluto's not a planet, so your thing doesn't work very well. And she's like, I grew up with Pluto as a planet. Just because some people told me it's not a planet, I'm going to continue to think of it as a planet, which ends up being a pretty sad metaphor for the fact that she grew up looking at her son as her son, and she cannot make herself see him as the person who did this thing. But the person that comes to get him is the physical manifestation of death. And in Mercury, which is all about revenge, there is a character that represents the physical manifestation of revenge. For me, it doesn't, like, I don't know what if it communicates, you know. And in this one, the woman in the red raincoat is the physical manifestation of passion. Because we say passion, you immediately think of love, but you can passionately hate something. It's really about an intensity that kind of takes over the emotion, or buoys it in a way. So that's what she represented, and she got crazier the crazier their passions got.
Can I ask
Yes.
a follow-up question, just for curious? Did you always envision this as being basically a two-woman play, or?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if you ever.
Oh, when I first got to the part where I was like, okay, now I have to write this woman, I have to write this thing in the bar, because I wrote it pretty much in order, except I wrote the date last. Because I have a really hard time with sweet things. And like all the fucked up shit. I'm like, so that tells you everything you need to know. Except generally I use playwriting as like therapy. So when I have things that I don't understand, like what I just explained in the context for this, I write a play about it, and then you have to suffer. But I get to walk around smiling, like, because I feel better. So I got to that scene and I was like, oh, maybe she needs to come on to the stage, like even if she doesn't have any lines. And then I thought, no, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works great.
No, I just,
But
you
I
asked,
was-
and I thought about it.
just-
I was
yeah.
like, no.
I mean, I have a picture of her.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and that's also if you see her, then all of a sudden it becomes real in a way that's not super helpful. And I also think that I really tried because, and I know some of you may have seen Reykjavik or Blackbird Winter Rush that they've done here. All wonderful productions. I told Karen's here that did Blackbird Winter, which is a 47-page monologue. And I went up at the beginning and I was like, theirs is the same length, but there's 2 of them. They're not stealing your crown yet. But I write plays that usually require a heavy amounts of technical elements because I think that's what theater's for theater magic. So with this one, I was like, I really want to see, because it's really about these 2 women's completely different experiences of the same thing. I wanted to just do them blanks. I still made it really hard by putting hundreds of lighting instruments in the air, which no technical director is going to shake my hand. But I just wanted them to be on stage and just let the words and their performances kind of carry the moment, which was so fun. It's fun to do a reading of it then because you're basically singing the play. I mean, if you came to see it, it would be that, plus some cool lighting effects.
Some bass.
And some bass. I really like this low sound where they put the woofers under the audience, so you feel it. You don't hear it, but it's like you're aware of it in a way that's different.
Like a rum shaker.
I do like a rum shaker.
Which is something we've done a number of times.
Yeah.
It's a commonality.
Everybody does it. It's great.
Will you talk a little bit about why you're writing a cycle of plays, maybe about the planets, like astronomy, how do you go about it? And then when you're doing a play, like with this, is the idea first, and then you're like, oh, I'll attach a planet to it, and that works, or?
I think what generally happens is I'll answer the first part first.
Good.
I'm obsessed with scale. I'm obsessed with how small we are in the galaxy, let alone the universe. Even our solar system. Because when you're like, oh, well, we're just one person on Earth, that still doesn't, I mean, you're like, right, that's Earth, we get it. There are all these things that we still don't know anything about. I mean, we think we know something, and every week there's something new to know. And so, we're like finding like real water on Europa, and like things like, and you're like, what? That's been there forever. Why don't we just know that? So, there's something about these kind of big things that we know exist, but we can't reach out and touch, like these kind of, and I love writing stories where it's like a really intimate story that brushes up against something much larger, and that friction is what creates part of the like churn of the storytelling. So that's why, and then the planets all have different meanings for different things, like Mercury, there's all these jokes about Mercury being in retrograde in that play. Just things that we say, like that we don't even know what that, most people don't know what Mercury retrograde means. They just think, they blame shit on it. And, oh, it's Mercury retrograde. That is not happening right now. Even when it does, it doesn't mean what you think it does. So that's why planets. I don't know if I'm going to do all 8, but I know I've got 2 more at least.
You've done 3,
I've done 3 now.
and you've got 2 more to work.
Yes.
Which planets is silly to stop.
Well, you can't stop then.
Well, that's what you would think, but like, I don't even say, I mean, this is maybe the first talkback where I've ever said I'm working on the cycle. Like, I don't like to admit that out loud because then I have to finish it. So, but, and also, these plays are, it isn't like, there's a cycle, so I have to write, like, each of these is like, I feel compelled, and then if it fits, then I think it makes sense. Do you know what I mean? So really for me, it's the thing I want to write about first, and then I'll be collecting things, or then I'll see something like scientific, or also, like, it's like I'm walking around and it's like having one of those sticky balls where things just collect in the back of my brain, and then I'll hear, bizarrely, I'll hear like a piece of music, and it'll kind of go in my brain, and then I tend to write really quickly. I hope that answered your question.
So I have a question. Unfortunately, I try to put things in context and know what's going on. And so when I first see these 2 women talking, I think, why do they together talking like this? And I think, oh, they're taking care of people. And it's a long-term relationship that now they're trying to fix. Then it turns out it's not long-term. And at the end, I don't know where they were. Are they dead?
They're definitely dead.
They're definitely dead.
Yeah.
Okay. Very long-term.
She got hit by a car.
That's a long term.
Yeah, she got hit by a car and she accidentally
Well, I
paralyzed
got
herself.
that, but you still don't know, maybe they got, if it's at least came. We don't know what happened, really. I mean, you left them there.
Well, here's what I'll say about that. That's great. I mean, if you can walk out of here feeling like there's hope for them, then I'm not even being, I'm a very sarcastic person, but I'm not being sarcastic. Because it's not a, I do not feel, with this, I don't feel like I need to have them be like, we're dead and now we have to hash this out because whichever one of us is right gets to go to heaven or something. Like I'm not putting like a larger theological framework around it, but I do feel like if there is something when you die or in your final moments, you reflect. And if I can jam their final moments together so they can both reflect on how the fuck did we get here, and then for them to leave the play not knowing because I write from a place of trying to figure something out or explore something, I'm not really writing polemically. Like, I'm not writing like, I want you to think this. I'm writing from a place of, I'm doing my best, what do you think? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and hopefully it's entertaining and hopefully it's dramatically satisfying, but it doesn't have to, I don't think, have like that.
Well, even though I like to put things, what's going on, I'm really fine at the end of something like a play or a movie where I don't know, that's really intriguing. So.
Well, I'm just obsessed with the fact that you think they might be okay. Well, that makes me so happy. Because I wrote a real upbeat ditty here. I think there's 3 now, but yeah.
You said you think about the idea and then you write quickly. How long did it take you to write this?
I I wrote the spider monologues first, and then I knew the rest of the play couldn't be like that because those are supposed to be because she saw the Great Light and she didn't. You're getting to see a piece of her that we don't see of this one. Which, by the way, it's fine if you didn't get that. Like that's just for me. Maybe I wrote those monologues and I didn't do anything for like a week, and then maybe 6 days, maybe another week for like just a draft, and then I went in and I was like, well, this doesn't track and this doesn't match up to what they said earlier. So then you do actually the like hard work of playwriting. Well, for me anyway. Some people are like, a blank page is so scary. I don't think it's scary. I think a full play that you then have to go in and do detail work on, I'm like, I don't wanna. And you have that moment where you're like, well, maybe I don't need to fix that. Maybe no one will notice. I'll just get away with it. Someone always notices. We would be here now and someone would be like, what did da-da-da mean? But yeah, so maybe a week and then another month of like fine tuning. And I did a workshop of it just 2 weeks ago in Atlanta where they had 4 performances and they were off book. So it didn't have all the tack and the craziness, but they were off book. And that was super educational. Like it was to like figure out where am I losing it? You know, you want it to feel kind of like a wind-up toy, and there's the funny stuff at the beginning, and you're kind of getting this like, okay, they don't like each other, what's going on? And it's sort of a deal that I'm making with you, which is, I'm stealing this from Marcia Norman now. Well, you always make a deal with the audience in the first, and if you're, you want to make a deal with the audience in the first scene, so that they get to know when they get to go home. So they know what they're waiting for. So right now you're like, well, what is going on between these women? When I figure out what's going on between these women, I get to leave. And the thing, oh, this little girl got kidnapped. When I find out what happened to the little girl, I get to leave. Because if you don't make that deal with an audience, then that's when you, and you've probably experienced it, are sitting in a theater, watching a reading or watching a play, and you're thinking, oh, this could end in 10 minutes, or this could last 5 hours, and I don't know, and it's because you don't know what you're waiting for. And so there's that piece, always trying to make it, and it's hard when it's fewer people on stage. Like for Black Great Winter, I was like, okay, there's 10 items on stage, each one has a story. By the 3rd item, we're going to be like, oh, okay, when she gets through all the items, I get to leave. And so it's that kind of, you're always kind of thinking about how can I take the audience by the hand and kind of make them feel cared for so that I can then take them off the cliff. And I think there was a hand back there and then let's jump in.
I really loved Greek mythology growing up and I haven't gotten over it. So I really saw that woman in the red raincoat as the embodiment of Venus, who's also, you know, a force of passion. I just wondered if
I mean, I had 2 books by my bathtub when I was a little kid, and one was the Delars Norse mythology, and one was the Delars Greek mythology. They were like illustrated in the big print because it was for little me. And I used to sit in the bathtub for like hours, and my mom would be like, "Get on with it," and I'm just reading it. So I'm not going to deny that. Yes, that makes total sense. It wasn't intentional on my part, but I think it goes to the way that we, you know. Myths and religion are a way of explaining why the world isn't fair sometimes. And so that makes sense to me.
well, and there's a pretty long playwriting tradition too, sticking thoughts in that.
One of the things that I like about readings is you can focus in on the words that you know to read. And in this case, especially the rhythm. I mean, some of it was so fast you could hardly get the words out. And I wouldn't say any of it was slow, but it was slower. At least there was, you know, a rhythm. And some of it was very loud. And I wouldn't say any of it was soft, but it was softer. And especially when they were talking over one another, and then the quick back and forth between. How much was that, like, because that really kept me going.
Yeah.
With it, was that variation.
I love that.
So,
But I think of plays as musical scores as opposed to, some people think of plays as like, oh, here's a blueprint, now go build a house. I kind of think of it as a musical score. I play very heavily with rhythm. There are brackets in the lines that help me suggest to actors moments of overlapping dialogue, or for instance in that one where, because it's going pretty crazy when she breaks into the house, and then in the middle of that, Sally turns and starts talking to you while she's still trying to explain why she shouldn't be afraid to want to sacrifice herself for love in this German Korean philosophy. So it is, so in the script there's brackets, and so if the intention is, this is very technical, but if the intention is that Nicole is speaking much faster than Beth, then the last 2 words in Beth's line will have brackets, and then the first 8 will be in hers. So in order to make them fit together, she obviously has to be talking quicker. So it's a way for me to control rhythm as the play moves, because I think it's very important. And then all it says in the all it says in the spider monologues is the words are spilling out of her and she cannot stop them. It's very quick. But you never want to just say to an actor, talk faster, because that's a purely, that doesn't have anything to do with character. It doesn't have anything to do with intention. It's just it's as if they were robots, and I'm just speak faster. And that's not what it is. It's about intention and intensity, and it says it's totally removed from everything else that happens in the play. It's unlike everything, so it's like that. So yeah, I spend a lot of time thinking about rhythm. In TV too, but you can't do brackets. In TV, if I turned in a TV script that had brackets in it, the network would be go along, take it down.
Okay, I have a question for you two. First of all, it's so amazing to watch you, both of you, the artists that you are. And my question is, I'm not exactly sure what it is. What's it like to embody those characters? And it's so amazing to watch, and I just wonder what that experience is. And then it's different for different plays, or how you interact and all of that. I want you to tell me something.
Nice.
No, just tell me.
She needs something.
I think, I will say one fun fact though, is this is, I think, the first time we've actually been on stage together.
That's kind of dumb.
Yes.
Yeah, I've directed Sally a few times, but we've never actually been on stage together.
Well, let's do something about that.
We can fix that. We're gonna fix that in the news press, y'all.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, it's wild. Like Steve said, we only, rehearse for 6-8 hours tops.
And we spend a lot of time just talking about things that were not this play. But just having fun.
Yeah, but it was really fun as far as just discovering, in talking to Steve, just using the how you if you really get in the car, this language will take you for the ride. You just got to trust it. So anytime I felt like something was getting out, was because I wasn't either trusting the script, the words, or maybe I was, and granted, I only had 68 hours, but but it was where I was either trying to navigate against what the ride was. Does that make sense? But it was fun. We had a lot of fun talking about these women and just about ultimately how they kind of wanted similar things, but they just have such opposite communication styles that this is never going to work. But I don't know. What would you say?
Saying what's always so great, and doesn't happen that often, at least not so far in my life, to have the playwright in the room talk to about the play, and that was what was so great about. So we talked about character, and we talked about it got into physicality and all sorts of other things. So it was really great to start to be able to think about it more holistically, even just as a reading. And it's kind of painful because now it's why can't we keep working on this woman? I want to keep working on this woman, and figure it out. But,
there's a lot there with that woman. She's got a lot of stuff going on.
She does. But I love readings, much for the reason you mentioned, because you get to focus on the words and the language. And you really, it's like getting to bring the energy of discovery to the table work process that you engage in when you're working on a play, a whole play. And that I think was a super fun part of what this process for this reading was, and it was actually magical to hear your thoughts.
It was so much fun. I learned about the play because this is the two women I saw do it in Atlanta could not be more different than these two women. And so, and I had written it with those two women in mind because I've worked with them for like 20 years. They've done a bunch of plays for me. And the director I've worked with for 20 years, and she was like, "Oh, we already figured out da 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 da," and I was like, "Yeah," because we have the shorthand. And so then to come here and get, especially that first, like when we were working our way through it the first time, I was like, "Oh, these are different choices. This is really exciting," and I was finding stuff that maybe those actors who've been doing my stuff for 20 years made work for me without me knowing it. And then when I get asked a question, I'm like, I don't know why that's not. Why is that like that? And so, or that one place where just the wrong person said you're insane, and I was like, this makes no sense. And I had to tweak it. So it was really it was a really good experience, but also I was just everybody came in so excited that it had that energy,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know, either you guys.
You said something about readings were off book. I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means.
They have it memorized, so they're not looking at a script.
And do you have a lot of people asking you about the ending? Because I kind of thought it was kind of ironic that she was trying to kill her, but she ended up living and killing herself.
No, yeah, no.
I didn't know.
But I think that's okay.
No, I know. I just wondered if you get lots of questions or people have a lot of different interpretations.
Well, so this is only the second time I've done a talkback. Not looking at my back. You're really right. You live in talkbacks. Talkbacks are fun for me because sometimes you'll have the person that sends it. I hated the ending. Okay. I'm sorry. We had the talkback that was in Atlanta after the first performance of the four. Nobody asked me about the ending.
So do you change things at all after you talk about
It depends, because lots of times, because I don't expect an audience, and I know there are people in here who do have this, but I don't expect a general theater audience to have a understanding of the mechanics of storytelling in the same way that people that study it do, whether they're actors, directors, writers. And so lots of times I try and put into talkbacks, you sort of, like when I was a young playwright, I wanted to die when I had to do talkbacks because I wrote weird plays and people were like, raise their hand and that was bad. That's not helpful to me. But you get a thicker skin, and the more you do it, and you also start writing things that you're confident about what you're trying to execute, and so then it becomes like, is somebody going to say something about that thing on page 5 that I know is a problem, or is it just going to go by? Or let's say you really hated something that happened on page 30 of the book. You're like, oh, it was about, it was right after the part where she got in the car and I didn't like that at all. In my brain, I'm going, oh, I fucked up because I didn't say on page 4 the thing that you need to know on page 30 in order for that to make sense. So even if you're not, even if the feedback I'm getting is non-specific or is about a specific place where it's actually something else, I'm still learning how the play is coming across to people. So I always value talkbacks for that. Yes, sir.
I thought they both died. I think I wanted to believe that somehow they both survived the Roman Andrews, but unfortunately they died.
Yeah.
So what do you do with this play? What's your hopes and aspirations for what happens next? I think the play is really good, and people would enjoy it, and it's meaningful, and has a message, and it's riveting to listen to. But what do you do with it? You put it out, you give birth to it, before it leaves place, and what happens to it?
Well, right now first I want to say that my hope I'm going to try and not be academic about this. So in most plays that you go to see, most, not all, in most plays, definitely in the movies that you go to see, not all, but most of the movies you go to see, and all the stories you hear when you're a kid are all built on the Aristotelian model, which is you're going along, and then all of a sudden an inciting incident happens, there's rising action, which is conflict, you reach the top, right, which is the climax. The character, and it usually should come from character, has a recognition that what they're doing is not the right thing to do, and a reversal where they go off in a new direction, and then you have the end of the play, and maybe a denouement, and it's over. So for me, in this play, I was like, can I have Beth have a recognition without the reversal, because she's already dead? Can I have Nicole have the recognition, which for Beth, it's I need people to like me. I've always needed people to like me. I'm sorry, that's just how I am. I can't function if they don't. And to admit that out loud from someone who's built their entire persona around hiding that. And then for Nicole, it's the realization I spent my life being afraid of everything, but I should have been afraid of myself. And to give them those, but not give them the reversals, which is what makes a play dramatically satisfying, because I want the audience at the end to have the realization. It's like you said, I wanted to have hope that they were okay and that everything was fine, but I know that's not what happened because they died. So when you said that, I was like, thank you, because it means I'm not totally crazy. And in terms of what happens next, I'm still, tweaking it. I'm sure I'm going to do another reading of it somewhere, even if it's just in LA with people in my house, now that I've seen it with an audience, just to kind of keep fine-tuning it. And then my agents will send it around. I think there's going to be a reading in New York in June, but you need that from me. So yeah, that's the next play. You don't really know. You playwright, you write things.
You have agents, an agent that tries to sell the play?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So how did Pigeon Dog?
We know Steve. And when we knew that we were going to be in this crazy mobile season yet again, we wanted to make sure that to bring back, because last year we didn't do the readings because we were, didn't have a space, and it was going to be cost prohibitive, and et cetera, et cetera. And so when we had to pivot again this season, because we thought we were going to do half of the season at the new space and there was the delay, we decided, well, let's try to bring the new work stuff, like bring the readings part back. Maybe we do a monthly series, maybe we reach out, instead of doing the massive contest, which we normally do, let's reach out to some people, and people send me plays, they send us plays all the time.
Yeah.
So we also get a ton of plays. But I actually reached out to Steve and said, what are you working on? Like, I would love to bring something, because we have this whole mobile thing happening. Are you available? Because we've been talking about it for a while, and he sent me the play.
Well, that's the first play I sent you.
I like it, it's just a little.
Yeah, the first play I sent is called Wonder, and it's 9 actors playing 13 roles over 3 acts. And I was like, I just did this at Ojai, what about this? And there was no immediate response. And usually, even if Tina's busy, I feel like
I don't know her house.
well, you should know that. I should have tried to her house from Los Angeles. That's not very good. In my gold Mercedes, my and then I was working on Venus, and I realized oh, what a great opportunity, because the reading that she had said they were looking for was this slot, and it was going to happen right after Atlanta, and I thought, well, I could keep the ball rolling in terms of not falling out of the play for too long before I have to dig back into it. And so then there still was, I was like, I don't know what you thought of Wonder, but there's this other one too, and she was like, anything you want to send us. And so I also sent that, and then she's like, I love this, I would like to be in this. And I was like, I would love for you to be in this. Because I worked with Tina as a producer, and I worked with Tina as a director on my work, but I've never gotten to have Tina act in my stuff. And we've known each other since 2008, so yeah.
We got to know each other, just for the record, we got to know each other through the National Employee Network, which Kitchen Dog is a founding member of, and so that's how we all became in this crazy suit, and you meet people and you're like, oh yeah, we're in the same tribe, so we'd always kind of gravitate in conferences, me, Chris, and Tim, and they're really like, oh, here's Steve, let's all go have dinner, and
by the way,
all crazy
yeah,
stories.
and be Waldorf and Statler in the Muppet Show, because
Yeah.
that's who Tina and I are. We're like, oh, this is awful. Making fun of the lobby music that
what did we laugh at that you were surprised at, and what didn't we laugh at that you were talking about?
First of all, I think the funniest, it's not funny, the setup line isn't the funniest, but when she goes, oh, did I mention that I used to photograph bees professionally? That's just weird. And when she says what, and then it's, oh, well, you said it was a good date, so I thought we were just making things up. And so that to me, I was like, if you don't laugh, it happens early enough in the play that if nobody laughs at that part, we're all in trouble. Not because it's a great joke, but it's just, it is, and also like what you do as a play, when you are very focused on rhythm, and when you are writing weird things, that part of making people feel like they're in good hands in terms of the characters and storytelling is giving people space at the beginning of a play to learn how to listen to it. Because every play speaks differently. And if you jump straight into plot, then it's like, oh, then you're going to miss something because I haven't taken the time to kind of put you in a good space. And so the first 4 pages are sort of passive-aggressive bickering and like here's who I am. Oh, okay, that's not who she is. But and it's got the overlapping in it, and it has this kind of the weirdness of it. And so by the time you get to the first spider monologue, coming out of that, you now know, whether you're conscious of it, how the play works. And so it's going to function in that rhythm again through the end. So when the things early in the play don't land, then it's kind of like, all right, well, we're just trying to start a lawnmower for the rest of the play. And we've all been in readings where that, and some of you may have experienced it today, and that's fine, because you couldn't see it over the music stands. But like sometimes when you're in a reading and you're like, I wonder how much longer this is, and you kind of look to see how much.
And by the way, trying to say photograph these professionally with intention, and so I woke up this morning and the first thing I did was photograph these professionally. I was like, why is this so, yesterday we were laughing, like, why is that so hard to say?
I thought it was, and by the way, the play was written, the first draft had been sent to the people in Atlanta, and I was talking to one of my friends, and he was like, oh, I used to photograph bees professionally. And I was like, what? He goes, I used to photograph bees professionally. And I was like, what is that? What? And then he said, I have a camera. And I used to take pictures for National Geographic of bees. And I was like, oh my God, that's so great. When you said it, that's not something that you hear. And I was like, I'm gonna put that in my play. And he goes, I don't think people are really gonna care about that. And I was like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. Trust me, I used to photograph these. And also the fact that it's because all of her little and things are written in them, but I just love that she's like, it was a great day. And I used to photograph these. That's the best thing. I love it so much. So that, and I was really happy that you laughed at it. Because it would have been a sign that the ship was going down. We did not hook them early. Is that it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When you finish the play, I would like to pick right here now that Dallas will do the full.
Hell yeah.
Well, I definitely appreciate that.
And also, I just want to